So this is it. We've reached the final archetype of the Devious Dozen, where in this tutorial we are going to explore the characteristic profile of the perfectionist. Who is the perfectionist? The perfectionist archetype is a part of the self that has strict requirements and is faultless with standards, where refinement is its superpower, and the perfectionist lives by the motto, anything that you can do, I can do better, where high standards is the name of its game. The perfectionist is your obsessive desire and relentless focus towards having the most ideal circumstances, qualities, resources, and standards. The perfectionist is a trait that gets frustrated, upset, and repulsed by that which does not perform exactly as required. And there are two different types of perfectionism. There is appearance and work perfectionism. Let's begin with appearance perfectionism. The perfectionist will obsess over the orderliness, cleanliness, and quality of how you look and present yourself. Projecting the best side of you does elicit a healthy sense of pride and self-respect. It's important to look and feel good because this makes us feel special and attractive, and we are more likely to gain attention from other people that appreciate the qualities of style and beauty. However, we can develop this obsessive compulsive disorder with the way that we look and the way that we think we are being received by others, where self-conscientiousness leads to a state of being hyper-critical of one's appearance, and this feeling of perhaps being judged or mocked by others. As within, so without, when we start to obsess how we appear and are being received by others, then we start to criticize how others look. And we can put ourselves on this pedestal of being more superior. And when that's not offending and befriending the people we know, it can be a very self-alienating place to be on that pedestal. In the quest to be more distinctive with our appearance, we can become more daring and specialized in the way that we look and behave. This can result in cultivating the type of appearance that stands out like a sore thumb, where we start to get negative attention, where people are making rude, derogatory, and unwelcomed gestures. With work perfectionism, the perfectionist will obsess over the details, arrangements, resources, and the timing of the work procedures and projects. It wants everything to be scheduled, exact, and precise. Aiming for better standards is essential for personal growth and achievement. To excel beyond and become more than who we are and what we have right now, we do need to aim higher. It is often when improving upon the minor details, the little things, that we are making tweaks and adjustments to the bigger picture. Aiming for higher standards is what gives us the motivation to get better over time, where we find new and better ways to refine who we are, how we look, and what we do. There is a big difference between striving for and demanding perfection. Without balancing the desire to perfect who we are with appreciation for who we currently are, then we can find ourselves in a place of being constantly unhappy with the way things are and constantly yearning for things to be better. And it's one thing to strive for excellence, but it's quite another to beat ourselves up endlessly for not achieving perfection. Work perfectionism will make life an endless report card on our accomplishments. When demanding a high level of performance from oneself, we can start focusing on our shortcomings. The typical perfectionist is stuck in a cycle where each new task is another opportunity for self-criticism, disappointment, and perceived failure. The need to be perfect can also lead to procrastination. There is avoidance of doing things because we have this all or nothing, or it's got to be just right before I start attitude. The perfectionist may also avoid tasks that are too challenging, playing it safe by working only on projects that are highly likely to be completed and successful. Paradoxically, this strategy stifles personal growth and prevents the perfectionist from reaching the fullest potential. By playing it safe, the perfectionist will hold you back from pushing outside of the comfort zone to reach your maximum potential. Preoccupation with the details also means that the perfectionist is excessive with tasks, projects, and commitments. This makes one time poor and energy depleted to the point of neglecting friendships and forgetting to take time out for enjoyable and relaxing activities. With single-minded focus and overcommitment to the one thing, the perfectionist does live a very distressed and restrictive life. So to summarize the perfectionist, having loftier ambitions and attentiveness towards how we conduct ourselves and wanting things to be nicer, better, worthier, cleaner, etc., is a healthy sign of high standards. Setting high standards is a great motivational tool for self-improvement and achieving one's ambitions. Making progress in any area of life is about upgrading and transitioning from the unideal to the ideal. Going from the worst to the better, it is necessary to aim for and be moving from lower to higher. The perfectionist, however, demands excellent standards, and with this comes the immense pressure to get things right. The unrelenting need to be perfect can lead to constant criticization and intolerance towards anything less than the absolute stated best. Unfortunately, the need for precision, correctness, and flawlessness can make the perfectionist a fussy controller of people, tasks, and situations. With overbearing and unreasonable needs, the perfectionist is likely to interfere with and upset those less concerned with being so faultless. The perfectionist can also make covert comparisons that lead to unspoken resentments, secretly monitoring the progress of others, which leads to nitpicking disputes when things are unsatisfactory. The perfectionist is an unresolved blight on the conscience, whereby there is an aspect of self, be it the appearance, the intelligence, the background, the health, physicality, or the social status, that one has unconsciously or consciously accepted as being somewhat lacking, wrong, dirty, faulty, unworthy, or defiled. This underlying lack, this inferiority, can never be resolved by striving to be better. We can never be good enough. We're never able to meet the higher standards that we keep expecting and keep setting. Never satisfied with the way things are, the perfectionist is on the enduring track to unhappiness. Being so hard with expecting expectations will suck the fun out of life. High expectations can take over and make your life this fault-finding ordeal of disappointments that lead to endless rejections and corrections. Not that improving things makes the perfectionist feel better. The well-deserved achievements are rarely celebrated and compliments are often shunned. The reality is that perfection cannot be achieved by the mind focused on imperfections. The reality is that perfection does not exist objectively. Perfection is a subjective bias. It comes from the eye of the beholder. The need for perfection also kills progress. The perfectionist is likely to see circumstances as not being good enough, the timing not right, and the resources not acceptable. To a point they become the obstacles, reasons, and excuses for never starting nor finishing something. The perfectionist is forever tweaking and augmenting things until they become distorted and defiled from their natural state. And we do often look for and strive for perfection without actually appreciating that perfection already exists within the untampered simplicity of nature. When detracting from the perfection of nature, the perfectionist is just as much as the imperfectionist. Perfectionists are their own worst critics because good enough is never enough. Perfectionists do have a hard time accepting their shortcomings. To compensate, they keep raising the bar of expectations for unattainable and unsustainable levels, where the perfect ideal is not always possible. The dark side of perfectionism is how we react and cope with things that don't manifest as expected. Perfectionists are at the risk of feeling inadequate and worthless. And instead of recognizing that it's the standards that they set themselves which are too high or too inflexible, the perfectionist feels that instead it is something deficient within them that is the problem or wrong that's out there, which can then contribute to a low mood, anxiety, and depression, and even thinking about ending one's own life because things can never work out perfectly. So being the perfectionist more often than not can have a serious impact on one's mental health, as too can all of the other 12 archetypes that you've now become aware of. And now that you've been introduced to the Devious Dozen, it's time for you to play the first mind game, which is called the resolution game, where you will learn how to resolve the detriments, the shadows, the limits, the self-abusive and self-sabotaging aspects of the Devious Dozen. And I will see you again in a presentation called the Resolution Game Introduction.